I lived in the Middle East, specifically in Dubai, UAE, for a good decade of my life, and I moved here in Canada back in 2018. Some of you may be contemplating on doing the same, moving from the Middle East to Canada, or some of you are living in the Middle East or the UAE, Oman, or Qatar, or Bahrain. I would like to share with you the top 5 comparisons between living in the Middle East, or predominantly really in the UAE, and living in New Brunswick, Canada, specifically Moncton. First off, let me introduce to you where New Brunswick is. New Brunswick is in the Atlantic. It's called the Atlantic part of Canada. It's in the eastern part of Canada, so we are bordering Quebec and Nova Scotia. So first off, on our comparison between Dubai and Moncton is that Dubai, as everybody might be aware, is that Dubai is a city. It's vibrant, it's happy, it's alive. It seems as if the entertainment never ends. There's so much options for entertainment and to entertain yourself. It will cost money, of course, but nevertheless the options are there. And comparing it to Moncton, really, Moncton is a little town. It's there isn't much happening here. Even the capital, which is Fredericton, the club scene is really, there's no club scene even here. There is a very handful amount of club scene. We have got one mall here, and that's about it. There are shops, of course, but the options are limited. The options is not as vibrant or as many as you would have or as they have in Dubai. So that is the first comparison, and that essentially leads me to the second comparison. And the second comparison is that Dubai being a city and having so many options, so many entertainment, so many malls, so many movie houses, just Dubai tend to be more expensive because of the options that are provided to the people living in the city. Of course, the more that you see, or the more that one sees the options, the more one is enticed to spend. And that is, I guess that's the negative connotation to it. Now, here, since there isn't much options, really, it tends to be less expensive. A very prominent example is that in Dubai, if there is a celebration, it's very common to celebrate in a restaurant. And the choice is yours. It's not limited. It's actually infinite. It's unlimited amount of restaurants where you can celebrate at. Now here, it's very limited. And therefore, what happens is that most predominantly, people celebrate in the houses, in their own houses, and people will bring their own food. It's more like a potluck kind of system. Now, the third one, which is very important to every single person in Canada, is taxation. In Dubai, or predominantly in the Middle East, taxation on income is not present. There is value-added tax. I know that for a fact. In Dubai, there is 5% value-added tax on commodities, but even then, it's not for all commodities. It's specific commodities such as cigarettes or tobaccos, alcohol. It's called sin tax, and it's only 5%. So essentially, these are commodities that make people happy. It's called sin tax, and 5% really is very minimal. I know for a fact in Oman, they have also implemented the same kind of taxation. It's 5% if I'm not mistaken, and it plays a huge role to not have income taxation. Here in New Brunswick, we are heavily taxed. We are one, as I mentioned earlier, New Brunswick is one of the highest taxed provinces in the whole of Canada, really.
In New Brunswick, there's the personal income and tax brackets and tax rates. 2021 taxable income. So the first $43,835 dollars that you earn in a year is taxed at 9.68%. Now, the higher your income goes, the higher your tax bracket goes as well. So if your income goes above 43,835 to 87,671, your tax goes to 14.82. So that's about 5% increase there. And if it goes from 87,671 to 142,534, then additional almost 3% there, which is 16.52. And from 142,534 to 162,383, your taxable rate is 17.84, and then over 162,383, your tax is at 20.30. And in New Brunswick, of course, in the whole of Canada, really, There is the VAT, which is the value added tax. This is essentially added to every single commodity that a person buys, commodities such as clothing, shoes, construction materials, etc., etc. So in New Brunswick, we are charged at 15% HST, that is the harmonized sales tax.
That's the third one, which is a main denominator or a main factor in the comparison between living in Dubai and living in Moncton taxation. If you do a commission-based job or a regular job or part-time job, it doesn't matter. If you have a side hustle, it doesn't matter. You are taxed. You have to give your money to the government. That's how the government runs its business here. Now the fourth one is weather. It may be obvious because in the Middle East is the land of eternal sunshine. It doesn't matter if it's 7 o'clock in the evening, the sun is still there, and it's very, very freaking hot. It goes up to 50-55% or 55 degrees Celsius during the peak of summer. Between June, July, August, September, woof, you will just really burn yourself in Dubai. But that is another beauty of it, because it's a land of eternal sunshine. I guess really the weather depends on personal preferences. Some people would prefer to have eternal sunshine, and they rather live in a very hot, warm conditions because the air conditioning is present anyway. Some people is receptive of the idea of having 4 seasons. The beauty of 4 seasons is that there are various activities that you can do. It's not the same activities that you have to do or you can do in 1 year or in 12 months, really. So there are winter activities, there are summer activities, there are autumn activities. Autumn colors in Canada is one of the most beautiful autumn colors I've ever seen, and I've traveled to some countries and I've seen some autumn colors, but Canada is really beautiful. Now spring, forget about spring. Spring is a very confused season. It's one day it will rain, the next day it's sunny, the next day it will snow. Like yesterday it was very sunny, the day before it was bleak, and today it's snowing. It's a very confused season or time of the year. Spring is. It's more confused than I am with my life, really. And the fifth one, which is fundamental to any living conditions, is social services, most specifically the Medicare. So in Dubai, if you are an expatriate there, then you certainly are only covered with insurance by your company. It is, though, a law or a regulation within the UAE that the company should provide insurance or health insurance, just health insurance, to its employees. Although there are employers that would not bother paying for any insurance, but that's another topic for another video. Nevertheless, it is a law in Dubai for employers to provide insurance to their employees. Now, the drawback of that is that when you lose your job, you were laid off, you resign, or something happens and you have to leave your job, then you are out of insurance and you are responsible for your own insurance, essentially. It's either you take your own insurance or you just wing it. If anything happens, you just wing it. Now, comparing it to Moncton, here, as soon as you land, even if you are a student permit, on a student permit, the person is covered by the Medicare, essentially. Just to cite one example is that back in December, I had a surgery and I was already out of job during the time because the company had to lay off employees due to this pandemic. Now, I had the surgery and I didn't spend a single cent on that surgery. I had to stay in the hospital overnight, and whatever I used in the hospital, medication, care, the operation itself, nothing. I didn't pay any single cent on that operation. The only time that I had to spend money was that I had to buy a certain medication that was prescribed by the doctor, and that was the only time that I had to spend money on. It was about $20 or $25, and that was about it. And so that's one of the beauty of living here in Canada. But in order for the government, or for the New Brunswick specifically here, as we are as our topic, in order for the government to be able to do that, it has to tax the people heavily, which is essentially in the Middle East or in Dubai, you get to keep a majority or really all of your money when it comes to income. So yeah, so those are the top five comparisons of living in the Middle East or in Dubai as compared to living here in Moncton.